Okay, so how are pastors getting so rich and famous? And should pastors be rich and famous?
Okay. So, I mean, there's always been pastors and ministers that have been well known.
Okay, like Jesus?
Like Jesus.
Sweet.
I mean, let's just, so pretty well known, pretty famous. And even like the early church, like Peter and James and John were pretty well known figures. And not just in the Jewish circles or Christian circles, but even they began to become known within the broader culture, and the governments were aware of them and those kind of things. And, same thing for Paul. And so I think you can kind of walk through kind of from that point on, like individuals that were well known throughout church history, but like especially like with Jesus and those guys, like they might have been well known, but they weren't rich.
Okay.
So there's that. But I think the major difference today is that it's the celebrity Christian pastors, ministers it's way beyond just like the Christian sphere, and it's become to this point to where like they're major figures in broader media and in broader culture.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of part of it, like why you have these really well-known pastors, and some of it's because they're on huge platforms because their churches are mega churches and that kind of thing,
right.
Or they're on social media and they have millions of followers. And so I think that's kind of playing into all of it. Because like even in the 20th century, you had someone like Billy Graham, for example. Pretty much everybody knew who Billy Graham was. And it was largely due to like media, like TV, radio. And he kind of became like America's pastor is what he became known as. And so you have like individual like Billy Graham, but then like the latter part of the 20th century, you're getting into like where the mega churches begin to really become a thing. And so you have these huge churches. So like think of like Joel Osteen, for example.
Right.
And so you got these huge churches, and these individuals are definitely kind of going beyond just Christians knowing about them, and they're in broader kind of culture and society as a name. And
I hate Joel Osteen.
Well, I think he's a phony and a crook, to be honest with you.
I mean, he looks like it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that I was in Guatemala one time and they had a book of Joel Osteen's there at the airport, and they had his complexion darker?
Oh, really?
To make him look more Hispanic.
Oh my God.
Because like you've seen Joel Osteen, dude's white.
Yeah, he's white.
And like, but this cover they had it so where his skin was actually darker, so he looked Hispanic because it's being sold in Guatemala.
Was the book in Spanish?
Yeah, it was in Spanish. And so that's kind of like the thing, right? Like here's his book in the Guatemalan airport, not like in a Christian section, but just with all these other books. And so, anyways, but so individual
darker,
that's right. But like, so I think there's individuals like that, and I mean, like, he would do like this is like back in the day, but like the Larry King Live and all that kind of stuff. He was on all those kind of programs, and so I think, in other words, I guess what I'm getting to is I think media has pushed it. But like where, like, for example, Jesus and his disciples might have been known to a degree, they weren't known like worldwide. And I mean, even in the larger part of the Roman Empire, they weren't even known. And they definitely weren't rich.
Okay. Even
if they were known within their kind of more localized geographical areas. And whereas, nowadays, I mean, these guys are known like literally worldwide because of social media.
So how do we go from pastors not being rich to being rich then?
Yeah, I think some of it's the mega church thing. Like, so if you're pastoring a church of thousands of people, by default, they're able to afford a higher income.
Okay.
Or the churches are able to afford a higher salary, for the pastor.
Okay.
And then I think that kind of became part of it, was like, we'll give you a big salary if you come here to our church. And so I think that's part of it. But then also you have things like the book deals.
Right.
Because now these guys are, and they're not like writing the books. They have ghostwriters and that kind of thing. For most of them, I'm not saying all of them. But
ghost writers.
Yes.
Zing for me. Yeah. I win.
So yeah, you have like the book deals, and then with social media just in general, I mean, they're making money off of that as well. So whether it's off their YouTube channels or their Instagram accounts or whatever. So
well,
yeah. So I think that's a huge part of where the money's coming from.